Do you want to know what it takes to make your first feature film and get it released? Well, I spoke to Mitchell Tolliday about his film Murder Ballads, starring Simon Callow. We talked about how he put the film together, what's happening with the film with sales and distribution. We also talked about how he got the actor Simon Callow interested in appearing in the film and his hopes for the future. Enjoy. So you've got a film just come out called Murder Ballads. Tell me a little bit about it.
So, Murder Ballads is a rock and roll comedy. It's 6 interconnected stories that tell the rapid rise and violent fall of rock band Stack of Corpses, who attempt to jumpstart their career by stealing a dead singer's song.
Lovely. And with this movie, so would you class this as micro budget? What sort of budget level were you at?
Definitely micro budget. It was under 30k.
Under 30k, cool. If I was, obviously I've made a bunch of films, they're all horror.
Yeah.
Because I sort of feel like, that's an easier sell. Yours, how did you describe yours? Kind of like a...
It's a dark comedy.
Dark comedy.
There's definitely like horror elements to it. So it's based on a short that we did called Everything Is Going to Be Fine, which had the same characters, had the same cast to a certain degree. It was the section where they have a car crash and then they fight over who has the rights to the band rather than help each other. And that was very much more like horror, because what was different to what's in the film is Keys was attached to the car by her intestines the entire time.
Lovely.
So very much like a horror comedy. With the feature, because we were kind of like having stories that led up to that moment and some that happened after, it became much more of a dark comedy than straight out horror.
Yeah. And the reason I mention that is because at the moment I guess I'm in the mindset of when I go to make a film, I'm very much, because, and I'm sure you've just been through it all, I'm always thinking about that horrible sales and distribution bit and trying to release the film, trying to get people to watch the film, all that kind of stuff. And I'm always conscious of genres, maybe some being more difficult than others. Is this dark comedy a tough sell? Is it something you even considered, or were you just like, this is the project I want to make and we'll worry about getting it out there afterwards?
Yeah, so I mean, it's The Honest Filmmaker, right? So let's be honest. I didn't think of it, didn't consider it. Like, it was more just that. So my history is that I'm a editor by trade. That's what I do, and I just cut my first feature for someone else, and that inspired me to make the short. And then it was just because we had this short, which we got down to like 15 minutes, but we had like a longer version of it, and we were just saying to ourselves, like, we've already got this. Why don't we write something that builds on that? I mean, we ended up reshooting it anyway, but it was kind of just driven by that. So it definitely wasn't like the way I thought I'd make my first feature, because it was a bit, stitch it together kind of thing. So yeah, we didn't consider that. I never thought someone would finance us to make this film. I wasn't really thinking about sales and distribution at that time. Being an editor, I knew how to get up to that point where you've got a finished edited film that's ready to go, but I knew nothing about the sales and distribution. And that was, we started considering it as we got closer to it, but it was always going to be aware that that was going to be the real learning experience.
Yeah. And I think I'm in two minds actually hearing you say that, because I know if I spoke to my producer / wife, she would be like, well, why are you thinking of making that one? How are we going to sell that? Where's that going to go? And it's balancing that with, I really want to make this. I'm really passionate about it. I really love the story, and I think it's going to be fun, and blah 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 blah. So I'm in two minds as to whether your first feature, because a lot of people say on your first feature you should do something you love, and it's just going to be a learning experience. Other people obviously, you should do something that is going to sell. So if I wind it back to the beginning of that process, so you said funded. So how did you raise the money for it?
So we had one investor who put in a lump sum for us, and then we crowdfunded it as well, and we got 11k through that. So that was, have you crowdfunded?
I have not, but I've spoken to people who have, and it sounds like it's a war zone.
it's its own job, You need to be prepared. You need to have your assets ready to like get people engaged, to say thank you, and show them what it's about. You can't just like put up a page on Kickstarter or Greenlit, which is what we used, and just, money must come in. It is work, and it's hard work. It's reaching out to every connection you have and seeing what happens. And we were very, very lucky, you know, like people did support us really well. So yeah, it was. I think because the idea, like, it's not like I never thought I could go with this idea to like BFI or BBC or anything, you know, because it is what it is. It's a dark comedy that's very silly, very violent. So it wasn't going to be kind of funded by those avenues. I think I would go more like the route of what your wife says now, in that, like, or you know, find that happy medium. I would never want to do something where I'm just like, oh well, I'm making this just because it will sell. But you know, I wouldn't do the approach that I've done again, because a cross genre is harder to sell. And I think we'd be in a much more difficult situation as well with our genre if we hadn't had Simon Callow involved as well. I like you. I'm a huge fan of horror, and I think like that would be the next thing I'd like to do, is focus more on like more traditional horror. It still probably have some comedic elements in it, but I think that's, like you said, it's a much easier sell. Like you've got your core fan base there. I love it anyway. I'm a fan myself. I think that is something I've definitely learned from this experience.
Yeah. So talking about crowdfunding, so I'm not familiar with Greenlit.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal with that? How does it work compared to the other ones? Is it one of these ones where you have to get all the money, or do you get whatever you raise? How's it work?
So Greenlit is one that's basically, it focuses on more artistic endeavors. Obviously you got Kickstarter, Indiegogo, but I just kind of felt like, well, you're in a sea there straight away. They're much bigger, and they cover everything from, you know, products to films and stuff. They provided like help as well, like, so it wasn't just like you threw it up there. They helped you how you should manage your campaign, gave you ideas, like really like talked you through the process of what you're going to need to do. I can't. We had it so it was flexi. So I think we did anyway. Where we didn't have to get our target to get it all, but I think it has both options where it's like it's all or nothing, or if you still get some, it will still go ahead.
Do you know how much they take? What's the sort of percentage? Is it the same as the others, or?
So I think so. We raised 11,500, I think, and I think we ended up taking home like 10,000 odd, maybe a little bit more. So it wasn't huge. Yeah, I mean, it is up for debate. At the end of the day, like the people who put in the money were obviously people who we knew, and who knew that this is something that I wanted to do for a long time, or one of the actors or something like that. So maybe we should have gone down a route of where it's like I don't know, like maybe set up a PayPal or something like that. There's more going direct to us, so we could have got that extra money. But it didn't seem bad compared to the others at the time.
Yeah. And then you mentioned private investor. Are we talking somebody you went to and pitched to, or are we talking like family/friend? Family, right? Okay, so that's interesting, because I talk about and I will do a video about raising finance for film.
Mm-hmm.
Family's a tough one. It's a difficult one, because on one hand it's good because that person loves you, hopefully, and they'll kind of support you to fund the film. The other tough side, about family funding a film is obviously they know you, and there's kind of that relationship established. So how do you deal with that, and would you recommend that to anyone? And is there any kind of like psychological, oh, this is making me feel icky doing this, or are you just like, no, they love me, they're supporting me? Discuss.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's a frank conversation, isn't it? And the nature of our film, because it's an anthology focusing on the band, it was very much sectioned. So it was never like, well, here's like a big lump sum that we need to do all of it. It was kind of like, right, we've got this far with this, and now we know how kind of each section is costing. So it was never like a one big thing. It was gradual. So it was just keeping that dialogue open, really. I mean, you know, yeah, it's not just like saying, oh, just because we're family, I'm owed it. It's knowing the risks and everything else about it.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely worth having that conversation so they know what they're getting themselves into, and also hopefully this is a wealthy relative, because you want somebody who's not going to miss that money and be absolutely desperate for it, because it takes a long time for it to come back.
Yes.
Um, so got the film funded. Went to shoot the film. You mentioned you did it in. So did you shoot it in little blocks, or did you? How did that
Yeah.
work? How did the shoot work?
Yeah. So it was kind of the tail end of the pandemic when we were shooting. Um, so yeah, we were shooting in blocks. Like I said, we already had a short that we were at that time thinking that we were going to just use wholesale. But the way we wrote it was very much with that, like, how can we make this manageable? And straight away, the ways to make it manageable is like keep it to one location, try and keep your cast low, all that kind of good stuff. But we kind of scaled that up by being able to have these sections, and so we're not staying in one place throughout the entire film. So yeah, it was very much like that. We actually filmed. We call them tracks as well because the film's all about a rock band. So we filmed the fourth track first because it felt like it was the most contained. It was with the cast that hadn't been involved in the short, so it like kind of let us learn what that was going to be like. And then it was really much a case of right, get this one done, all wrapped. Right, now let's plan the next one. Because we were relying on the favors and the goodwill of all the cast and crew, so it allowed people to have other work in between. It also meant that we didn't get fatigued throughout it. I mean, I had this naive hope that because I was editing it as well, that like, oh, this is going to be great, right? We'll film track 4, and then while we're like getting ready for the others, I'll edit it away. But like that just did not happen because like you've got a whole nother shoot to plan and everything. So it wasn't actually until I mean, I still picked and looked at stuff to make sure we had what we needed as we were going along, but like proper full-on edit didn't start until afterwards. Because also I had other projects that I needed to edit for other people that come in at the same time, so that kind of slowed
Yeah,
us down.
and your life as
Yeah,
well.
and my life, yeah,
The
yeah,
life bit,
yes,
sometimes that gets left behind, and
yeah.
also I've I've sometimes had that thought. I've thought, oh, I can chuck. You maybe even when you've had a good day on set, you think, oh, I'd love to chuck that together tonight.
No, I found like there was one like for some of our fight scenes because again, super low budget. We haven't got like a stunt coordinator or fight choreographer or anything. I kind of just leaned in on like what shots I thought I would need to connect everything, so that we can make that feel real. And on the final scene that we did with that, the big fight at the end, I did go home and like edit it that night because it's the big finish. Obviously every part of the film is important, but I felt like I really wanted to make some of those impacts, make sure that those had hit, and I did very much like I put that together, and the next day we went back and did another shot that's a final kill because it hadn't got the impact that I felt that we needed. So it's a bit of you got to pick and choose your battles, I think.
Yeah, no, that is good advice. And on the last film, I had some students doing assembly edits for me, um, which just meant, like you say, you could watch it and go, "Oh, hang on a minute, I've not covered it from that side," or "This needs something here." And it's while you've got the set and the people, it's very easy just to plop one extra shot in that can make all the difference. So talking about editing, you're an editor, and
Mhm.
I definitely from the film I can tell you're an editor because the scene transitions all kind of everything sort of flows, and also it doesn't feel like it's an hour 37 with credits, but it doesn't feel like an hour 37. It feels very tight. How was that? How did that influence the writing and the shooting of the film? Do you think, you being an editor?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because that's that old adage, isn't it? That like the film is written 3 times: when you write it, when it's the chaos of the directing, and then the edit at the end. And that is very true. I mean, so I wrote in a lot of those match shots and those transitions. It was very much just how my mind works. We had a lot of them from the short, and I just wanted to kind of continue them. I found it quite funny though. Like my writing partner Neil Rickardson, who's like my best friend since I was 8. Um, he had all those, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't realize that's why you'd written that particular line." Like where I was specifically saying, "Oh," and then he puts on a t-shirt, and because it match cuts with someone else doing it in the previous scene. But yeah, it was always intended. But sometimes that kind of also you have to break those because if you're going to condense it, then you might have to lose some of those transitions, and but you want to keep that flow. So it was done with that in mind. But I think with film in general, you've got to have a plan, but then you've also got to be willing for it to change and throw out and start a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree with that wholeheartedly. Got to have a plan. God, if I didn't have a plan, I'd be a mess. And I know some people do. I mean, a couple of
Yeah.
early projects gone in, and people just kind of want to make it up on the day. And that fills me with anxiety, not having a
Yeah.
shot list, not
No,
knowing
no,
what I'm
no.
going to get myself into.
Exactly.
So talk to me about Simon Callow. How did you get him involved? Because you've used him in a I've got a similar, I don't want to say celebrity because he's an actor cameo kind of thing in my film where I've got Sylvester McCoy in it, pops up in my film throughout the film, which means you get to, obviously you just spend a day with him, get loads of stuff, and then you get to put him throughout your movie. How did you get him involved, and what made you think of him in the first place?
Well, again, like it was done in the writing at the beginning. We had these like 6 stories, and we wanted to find a way to gel them together cohesively. And we always knew that like it would be beneficial if we could get like a bigger name. When we were doing the short, we were hoping to do it as well because the lead singer isn't actively involved. So we were thinking, oh, can we just get someone to play that part in a flashback? Ended up I had to do it, but we didn't want to do that, repeat that for this film. So it was written with that intent, in that like we know our standing in the industry, we know what budget we're playing with. If we're going to be able to punch higher, we need to find someone. I don't want to say validate it, but it is in a way. It's just someone who can hopefully knock down one or two of those doors that are there when it comes to the sales and distribution side. That was probably like the one bit that we maybe thought about when we were writing it. Aside from like, this is something we really want to do. It's like, well, if we want to do it, it's still got to be seen. Having a name will help. And who we were looking for kind of like came out of who the character was. And we love Simon Callow. He's done some hilarious films, but this was still a very different role for him. And I think that is a good way to think about things when you're writing for a named actor or a bigger actor. Is like, they're not going to be doing this for the money. They're not going to be doing it. They're going to be doing it because it's going to, flex a different muscle that they don't get to flex much, or it is something like new and interesting that they can do. And I think you can see from the film, like lots of people say this, like you can tell he's having a good time, and that's why he kind of did it. Really, it's like we had a list of other people, but he was right at the top, so we got very lucky with our first one. We just went online, we found his website, emailed his agent that was on his site. It turned out to be his literary agent, but thankfully they passed it on to his correct agent, and like it was literally the same day he got back to us, said he'd love to do this for us. So it was, it's amazing.
That is really good. And what you've done there as well, cleverly, which I try and do myself, is you've picked somebody that's going to be recognizable in other countries.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these micro budget films end up casting someone, say someone from EastEnders, who no one in America is going to know who that is, or somebody who's very well known in this country, but picking somebody who's got that international, their name will travel, is a smart move. And well done for getting him, because he's like a proper
I guess like
actor.
one thing worth noting as well is that we didn't actually go after him until we wrapped. So
right, that's interesting.
Yeah, again, like you could send him a script and everything like that and hope, but I thought, well, if there's actually footage, so I edited a trailer that was heavily tailored to like who his character was. It was all about Richard O'Keefe, and he is a huge part of the story, but like a trailer that was very focused on what this character is and why he's needed and essential. So he got that. We also gave him the first like 30 minutes of the film to watch as well, and then the entire script, just his sections, and I think that helps. I think if it had just been a script by itself, it's a lot harder. Straight away they had something visual to see, so he knew what he was getting himself into, which he thankfully still wanted to do.
Yeah. And also I would say advice for people trying to get someone like that in your film is I don't know how you approached him, but you not cap in hand, but you do need to acknowledge the fact that they're doing you a massive favour by being in the film. You can't go in all Bobby Big Balls, oh, I'm making a film and this part's going to change your career, Mr. Callow. You've got to go in as honest and as kind of bare as you can in the hope that they connect with that and then go, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I mean, I've got to say, the people I have used usually come away from it having had a positive experience because they feel like they're helping up and coming filmmakers. And also, it's a little bit more punk rock doing a micro budget film because it's not like a big, no one's in trailers. It's very much kind of on the
Yeah,
ground getting
and then
stuff done.
literally punk rock in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with your film, very punk rock. So then let's move on to sales and distribution. So are you with a distributor? What or are you what's your
Yeah,
how have you released the film?
yeah. So again, that's like I said, that was where once the film was edited and in a stage just go out to festivals and all that stuff. That was when it really felt like you were just like diving into the ocean of the unknown. So there, I say like you're you need to know other filmmakers and you know the good filmmakers, the nice filmmakers are willing to share their horror stories and like offer up like don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did. So on the festival circuit, I really became friends with a few directors who were seeing popping up at each festival that we were at, and they were on their second or third film. So they'd gone through the process. They told me the horror stories of like, oh, I'm just getting back my first film after 10 years where they've done nothing with it, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, press your network and get advice from that. I had people who were going to look over the contracts as they came in to help me make sure that I was getting done over there. So that's really important. But do your research. There's lots of like podcasts and blogs out there that will help you with this. There's some great Facebook groups as well, which highlight the really bad ones to stay away from. And then it's just like it's just putting yourself out there. I mean, a lot of filmmaking. I mean, maybe not these people who just wing it on the first day, like you said, but for me, a lot of filmmaking on the back end, spreadsheets. And it's like having a list of like people that you want to approach, for your main actor. It's having a list of distributors and sales agents that you want to approach, and it's doing your research. Like you can find sites that have all of the distributors there. You can't just you don't want to just like carpet on them because some are very specific. Some of them might just be anime. Some of them be animation. Some of them just might want international films. So go target the ones that you want, research them, look who they've distributed already. Do you have anything similar? And reach out to the directors of that. I had like one where I was like, oh, these guys sound pretty good. Went on their site, found some directors that I've reached out to, and one of the directors didn't even know that he was with them. He's like, oh, okay, well, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to look into how they've got my film. And I think a connection always helps. So the one that we ended up going with in the end, Studio Dome, we had a bit of a connection too. So Giles Alderson, who's the Filmmakers podcast, he was our exec producer. He'd on with them, so he had nice things to say about them. His writer of The Dare, Johnny Grant, he bumped into our one of our lead actresses, Lauren, in Cannes, mentioned Studio Dome to us. So that's how we got like hooked onto them in the first place. So they're Studio Dome, they like Entertainment Squad, the Horror Collective. They have this whole like collective of brands that they have. And so straight away, like that kind of connection of like someone that we know and trust, that felt better straight away. And they were just very honest. They were like, this is what you need to do to give it its best shot. This is where we're going to put it. This is what you can do to give it its best chance. And I appreciated that. It's the honesty of like not just promising you the world, because it is a 30K low budget silly dark comedy. You've got to like be realistic, and you've got to still be aware that it's you that is going to be the driving force behind it, because you're the person who cares the most.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I bet you there are hundreds, maybe thousands of these spreadsheets you're talking about. I've got one
Yeah,
with sales and distributors on. Every filmmaker's probably got one. I wish we could press a button and just combine them all so that we could easily search through it and go, yeah, they're shysters.
yeah,
These guys get back to you. These guys don't pay. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, these spreadsheets exist. You'll have to report back to me on Studio Dome as to whether that's worked out and you've seen some moolah come back.
sure.
And I'm assuming there was no upfront. I'm assuming
No MG, no. I
no.
mean, it was. Yeah, it seems like that's what I was getting from most filmmakers, that like back in 2018 that was happening a lot more, but it's kind of dwindled and it was very unlikely. They gave us a good split, and it, like I say, it was the honesty, and they've got a really good dashboard so you can see what's happening, what's coming in. Like you said, it's still early days, so but yeah, I mean, an MG would be great, but they're not out there as much, I don't think.
No. If you find one, let me know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I noticed is, so you didn't get in contact with me. Somebody from Darkside Media did, which I'm assuming is like a publicity machine or a company. So have your distributor got them on board, or have you got them on board? And what made you do that? And is it worth it?
Sure. So, again, this is where like Lauren Cornelius becomes our like most valuable player. She is great. So she plays Annie in the film. She is just one of these people who is just epically good at networking. She knows everyone. She helped with the casting and everything. And linked us up with Johnny, who led us to Studio Dome. And she also knew some PR people, which was Tom Dark at Darkside Media. So it wasn't. It was something that I decided to do and look into, just because again, like that's part of the end process that I don't really know much about, and so I just felt like that maybe again would open more doors if someone was coming through and representing me rather than me doing it myself. I mean, I think that obviously depend on the person you're approaching. Some people might appreciate like that, but I did think it was worthwhile. He's more focused on music, which was interesting. So it was something new for him as well. But I mean, he did great. He got us this. He got a few other podcasts, and got Simon Callow on Good Morning Britain, which was huge. So I think it's worth it, but you've got to measure up what you can achieve yourself, I guess, versus whether you think it's going to be worthwhile putting that money in.
Is it something you think you need to budget for during doing that budget? Is it like an additional cost that you think is worth it for other filmmakers?
Yes. I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, like, you are in the sea. Like, there's so much, like, so many films being made. You need to be able to get out there. And for better or worse, I mean, there's still, there's still borders, and some people can get access that you can't get access to yourself, maybe when you're at the earlier starts of your career. Um, bigger films, just by who they've got involved, the directors, the actors and stuff, that's going to just like be given. But obviously they'll have a big PR machine behind them anyway. I just think it gets you into those areas that unless you know it yourself already, you're not going to get into by yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Where can we watch the film at the moment? So it's on Prime Video, is that right?
It's on Prime, it's on Apple TV, it's on YouTube and Google Play. Google Play is like kind of in a transition mode, I think, where they're shutting down Google Play and moving everything to YouTube. So it's there. It's on Vimeo Premium as well, and then a few others in the US, like Fandango at Home and some others.
I'll put a link through to somewhere where people can click through and find the film.
Sure.
So then, other question which I ask everyone is, if say I was about to make my first debut feature, what would be the most important thing you would tell me, having just done it yourself?
Most important thing, I think, like, just believe in the film that you want to make and make sure it is, because if this continues and it's your first one, you may not have that chance to like make it in complete isolation ever again without some involvement. And I'm not saying you should like make a film in isolation, like just one person, but like it's good to get collaborators. But like I think making something that's true to you, because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be you who's pushing it forward. I mean, build your team as well. Your team is so important. Like, make sure it's people who you trust, who get the idea and who are in it with you, because it's a slog. So if it's not something you care about, then or deeply care about, it's going to be hard, because you're constantly just pushing it forwards yourself. You've got to keep that momentum.
Thanks for listening. If you're interested in hearing more about navigating sales and distribution, then I've done a special episode called How to Sell a Film. Do check it out. It's a good one if you want to find out all the inner workings of sales agents and distributors. I've been through the process many times before, so I've got a few techniques in there to make sure you get paid. Look out for your contract, all that kind of stuff.